In the early hours of March 16, 2025, multiple 911 calls flooded dispatch in Springfield, Illinois, reporting a massive structure fire at a single-story home on Maplewood Avenue. Witnesses described thick black smoke rising into the night sky, flames engulfing the property, and the unmistakable sound of crackling wood and shattering glass as the fire consumed everything in its path. Emergency responders were dispatched at 2:47 a.m. By the time firefighters arrived on the scene, the home was already fully ablaze, the fire raging out of control. Flames extended more than 20 feet into the air, with intense heat radiating outward, forcing first responders to keep their distance. The roof had partially collapsed, and sections of the exterior walls were beginning to cave in. Neighbors stood in shock and horror, watching helplessly as the fire devoured the home. Several reported hearing screams moments before the structure became fully engulfed, but the voices were quickly drowned out by the roar of the flames. Some attempted to approach the house, but the intense heat made it impossible. As firefighters worked to contain the blaze, rescue efforts proved futile. The front door was barricaded, and every window had been sealed shut from the outside, suggesting a deliberate attempt to trap those inside. Water hoses blasted at full pressure, but the fire had spread too quickly, fueled by what investigators would later confirm to be gasoline accelerants strategically placed throughout the home. At 3:56 a.m., the fire was finally extinguished. What remained was a skeletal shell of charred wood, smoldering debris, and the unmistakable stench of burnt flesh. Inside the black ruins, firefighters discovered 8 bodies. The remains were barely distinguishable from the collapsed furniture and burnt structural materials. The extent of the fire damage made immediate identification difficult, requiring forensic specialists to carefully extract and analyze each set of remains. Before we dive deep into this shocking story, please do well to subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories just like this one. Preliminary assessments confirmed that the deceased included Vanessa Thompson, 37 years old, Kendall Thompson's wife, Franklin Thompson, 73 years old, his father, Marcus Thompson, 35 years old, his younger brother, Isaiah Thompson, 22 years old, his son, and 6 children ages 3 to 18 years old. The severity of the fire made it impossible to determine the victims' causes of death on site. However, further forensic analysis revealed a disturbing truth. Several of the victims had sustained blunt force trauma prior to the fire, indicating that they may have been incapacitated or killed before the house was set ablaze. Arson investigators soon confirmed that the fire had been intentionally set. Multiple ignition points were identified within the home, and traces of gasoline and accelerants were found in the living room, hallways, and bedroom entryways. Investigators noted that every exit had been obstructed, preventing the victims from escaping. Law enforcement immediately launched a homicide investigation. Given the violent nature of the crime and the deliberate method of execution, detectives knew they were dealing with a mass murder rather than a tragic accident. Within hours, they had their prime suspect, Kendall Thompson, 40, the only surviving member of the household. Neighbors reported seeing him storm out of the house just a day earlier following a heated argument with his wife. Security footage from a nearby gas station captured Thompson purchasing 2 5-gallon containers of gasoline and fire accelerants just hours before the fire. A statewide manhunt was launched, and Thompson was located 5 hours later, sitting alone in his police patrol car outside a gas station in a neighboring county. When officers approached, he remained completely calm, making no attempt to resist. Instead, he smirked and reportedly said, "Took y'all long enough." Thompson was immediately taken into custody, where he later confessed to the murders, revealing a chilling motive that would shock both law enforcement and the community. The chain of events that ultimately led to the deaths of Vanessa Thompson, 6 children, Franklin Thompson, and Marcus Thompson began with a routine medical checkup on March 10, 2025. Malia Thompson, 18, the eldest daughter of Kendall and Vanessa Thompson, was taken to Springfield Regional Medical Center for persistent autoimmune symptoms. According to medical reports, she had been experiencing chronic fatigue, unexplained joint pain, and recurring infections, all of which pointed to a possible hereditary immune disorder. Due to the nature of the symptoms, Her doctor ordered a genetic panel to screen for inherited conditions, requiring DNA samples from both biological parents and siblings. The test aimed to identify any genetic markers associated with hereditary diseases, providing insight into the origins of her condition. On March 12, 2025, blood samples from Kendall, Vanessa, and all 6 children Malia, Amir 16, Lila 14, KJ 10, Naomi 7, and Ezra 4 were sent to a specialized forensic genetics lab in Peoria, Illinois as standard protocol for familial medical screening. Short tandem repeat STR DNA testing was conducted. STR analysis is one of the most accurate and widely used DNA profiling methods, examining specific regions of genetic code where repeating sequences differ between individuals. This process is commonly used in paternity testing, forensic investigations, and kinship analysis. When the initial results came back, medical staff at Springfield Regional Medical Center were immediately alarmed. Kendall Thompson was not the biological father of any of the 6 children. At first, laboratory technicians suspected a clerical error. A second round of testing was ordered to rule out a possible mix-up. The samples were re-examined using YSTR analysis, a technique that isolates male-specific genetic markers inherited exclusively through the paternal line. The results were undeniable. Further testing was conducted to determine the true paternity of the children. The findings were far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Malia 18 and Amir 16 were fathered by Franklin Thompson, 73, Kendall Thompson's own father. Lila, 14, KJ, 10, and Naomi, 7, were fathered by Marcus Thompson, 35, Kendall Thompson's younger brother. Ezra, 4, was fathered by Isaiah Thompson, 22, Kendall Thompson's own son from a previous relationship. The revelation pointed to a systematic pattern of incest and long-term deception within the Thompson family. Medical professionals at Springfield Regional Medical Center were legally obligated to alert Child Protective Services, CPS, and law enforcement due to the serious nature of the findings. The test results were delivered to Kendall Thompson on March 15, 2025. According to police reports, the moment he received the information, he went completely silent, staring at the documents for several minutes before abruptly walking out of the hospital without a word. That night, neighbors reported hearing shouting, glass breaking, and what sounded like a violent altercation inside the Thompson home. Within 24 hours, the entire family would be dead. On March 15, 2025, at approximately 5:30 p.m., Kendall Thompson received the official DNA test results, confirming what no man could ever prepare for. He was not the biological father of any of his 6 children. The tests revealed that his father, his brother, and his own son had all fathered the children he had unknowingly raised as his own. According to hospital staff at Springfield Regional Medical Center, Thompson sat in stunned silence for several minutes after being handed the documents. He reportedly flipped through the pages multiple times, as if he couldn't comprehend what he was reading. Then, without speaking, he abruptly stood up, walked out of the hospital, and drove away without checking out at the front desk. By 6:15 p.m., Thompson arrived home. What happened next would be the first explosion of violence that would ultimately lead to the total annihilation of the Thompson family. Neighbors reported hearing loud shouting coming from inside the house. Witnesses say Thompson and Vanessa were engaged in a heated argument, with Thompson demanding to know how long she had been lying to him. The yelling soon escalated into the sound of breaking glass and objects being thrown against the walls. One neighbor who lived directly next door later told investigators that they heard Vanessa laughing. Not crying, not pleading, but laughing hysterically. According to police reports, Vanessa did not deny the accusations when confronted. Instead, she mocked her husband, allegedly taunting him about how long she had been deceiving him. "You always thought you were the man of the house," she reportedly told him. "But you were just another fool." She admitted that everyone in his family knew the truth except him. She then allegedly laughed in his face, telling him he had been raising someone else's kids while his own father, brother, and son had all been sleeping with her behind his back. The confrontation became physical at 6:45 p.m. Neighbors reported hearing loud crashing sounds inside the Thompson residence. Witnesses saw Thompson storm out of the front door, visibly shaken, his hands trembling, his face contorted in a mix of rage and devastation. One witness recalled seeing Thompson stop on the porch, staring into the night sky, muttering to himself before getting into his police cruiser and speeding off. Surveillance footage from a local gas station at 7:10 p.m. captured Thompson purchasing 2 5-gallon containers of gasoline, fire accelerants, and a box of matches. He paid in cash and left without saying a word. By 2:47 a.m., the house would be nothing but ashes. Law enforcement immediately identified Kendall Thompson as the primary suspect. With his entire family dead, the home reduced to ash, and surveillance footage placing him at the scene hours before the fire, there was no doubt about who was responsible. A statewide manhunt was launched. Every law enforcement agency in Illinois was put on alert. Officers scoured highways, gas stations, motels, and transit hubs, believing Thompson would either attempt to flee the state or end his own life before he could be captured. But he never ran. 5 hours later, at 7:32 a.m., Thompson was found sitting alone in his patrol car, parked outside a rundown gas station in a neighboring county, less than 50 miles from the crime scene. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't even trying to escape. When officers approached the vehicle with their weapons drawn, Thompson remained completely still. His hands rested on the steering wheel, his uniform still neatly pressed, his face eerily calm, as if he had just finished his shift and was waiting for orders. When an officer opened the door and ordered him to step out, he looked up, smirked, and simply said, "Took y'all long enough." There was no struggle, no resistance, no remorse. He allowed them to cuff him, to read him his rights, to place him in the back of the squad car, as if this was just another routine arrest. But what he revealed in interrogation would leave even hardened detectives speechless. Thompson confessed immediately. There was no hesitation, no bargaining, no attempts to deny what he had done. He laid out the entire sequence of events with disturbing clarity, speaking in a measured, almost detached tone, as if he were recounting someone else's crime. He told them that the DNA results had shattered his entire existence, that in one moment of scientific certainty, he realized his entire life had been a lie. He described the humiliation, the betrayal, the gut-wrenching realization that his own father, his own brother, and his own son had taken turns with his wife, that he had unknowingly spent 20 years raising children that were not his own, that he had been playing the role of a devoted father while, in reality, he had been raising his own half-siblings, nieces, and nephews. Thompson said he felt there was no way forward, that there was no possible reality in which he could continue to exist knowing what had been done to him. But more than anything else, he could not allow the Thompson bloodline to continue. In his mind, there was only one solution: to erase every trace of what had been done to him, to wipe out every piece of his family's disgrace. He admitted that his father and brother were the first to die. He had beaten them mercilessly with his police-issued baton, breaking bones, ribs, and skulls, ensuring they felt every ounce of his rage before they took their final breaths. Then he turned to the rest of the house. He barricaded the doors, soaked the floors in gasoline, and struck the match. He told detectives that he stood outside and watched the flames rise, listening to the muffled screams of those inside as the fire consumed them all. And then, as if his work was done, he got in his car and left. When asked if he regretted his actions, Thompson smiled for the first time. "The bloodline ends with me." Kendall Thompson now faces one of the most disturbing criminal cases in Illinois history. Prosecutors have formally charged him with 8 counts of first-degree murder, 1 for each victim killed in the fire. Given the premeditated nature of the crime, the calculated planning, and the deliberate effort to ensure no one survived, the charges carry the possibility of the death penalty. He has also been charged with arson, as investigators confirmed that multiple ignition points were found throughout the home, with clear evidence of gasoline accelerants used to ensure the fire spread rapidly. Additionally, Thompson faces charges of obstruction of justice, as law enforcement determined that he attempted to conceal prior violence against his father and brother before setting the home ablaze. One of the most chilling charges is abuse of a corpse. Autopsy reports confirmed that some of the victims were already dead before the fire began, supporting the theory that Thompson incapacitated or killed them before igniting the house. If convicted, he faces either the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. As authorities prepare for trial, the investigation into the Thompson family's dark history continues. Detectives are working to determine how long the pattern of incest had been occurring, whether Vanessa Thompson was a willing participant or a victim herself, and whether additional family members or outside individuals were aware of or complicit in the abuse. One of the most disturbing elements of the case is the possibility of posthumous sexual abuse charges against Franklin Thompson, Marcus Thompson, and Isaiah Thompson, though all three are now deceased. Investigators are now examining decades' worth of medical records, family documents, and forensic evidence to uncover the full scope of what happened inside the Thompson household. Law enforcement officials have described this case as one of the most complex and unsettling instances of familial violence ever documented, exposing generational patterns of abuse, deception, and unspeakable betrayal. As the trial approaches, Springfield, Illinois, remains in shock, grappling with the horrific reality of a crime so deeply rooted in family ties that it defies comprehension. Springfield, Illinois, remains in a state of shock as the full details of the Thompson case continue to unfold. A town once known for its quiet, close-knit community has now become the center of one of the most disturbing family murders in recent history. Residents are struggling to comprehend how something so grotesque, so twisted, could have been happening right in their midst. Many describe Kendall Thompson as a man who was respected, stable, and seemingly normal, which has only deepened the town's confusion. Neighbors who had known the Thompson family for years are left questioning how Kendall never knew the truth about his own children. Some recall subtle tensions within the family, whispered arguments, long absences, Vanessa's unusually close relationship with certain male relatives, but no one could have imagined the extent of the deception. Some members of the community have expressed sympathy for Thompson, believing that no man could have endured the level of betrayal he suffered without snapping. They argue that his actions, while brutal, were the result of an unimaginable psychological break. A man pushed beyond his limits by a secret that destroyed everything he thought was real. Others see him as no better than the family he murdered. Despite the shocking truth of the DNA results, some residents believe that nothing could ever justify the deliberate, calculated massacre of 8 people, including 6 innocent children. With the charred remains of the Thompson home still standing, the site serves as a grim monument to the horror that unfolded there. Some neighbors have refused to walk past it, calling it a place of unspeakable evil. Others visit the site out of morbid curiosity, staring at the ashes, trying to make sense of what led to such a complete and total annihilation of an entire bloodline. The town remains divided. Was Kendall Thompson a victim or a monster? Was this justice or an act of sheer brutality? And most disturbingly, how many other secrets still remain buried beneath the ashes? Authorities have described the Thompson family murders as one of the most disturbing acts of familial violence in recent history. The sheer scale of deception, incest, and betrayal uncovered in this case has sent shockwaves far beyond Springfield, Illinois, leaving investigators, psychologists, and legal experts grappling with its horrifying implications. With the deaths of Vanessa Thompson, her 6 children, Franklin Thompson, Marcus Thompson, and Isaiah Thompson, the entire Thompson bloodline has been effectively wiped out. A generational lineage erased in one night of calculated fury, the result of secrets too monstrous to remain hidden. This case raises profound ethical and psychological questions, not just about the physical violence that ended the Thompson family, but about the years of generational abuse, manipulation, and deception that led to it. How does a family exist in such secrecy, operating under a web of incest and coercion, without detection for so many years? What psychological toll does a revelation like this take on a man who has unknowingly lived a life built on lies? And at what point does human sanity fracture beyond repair? Kendall Thompson is set to stand trial for 8 counts of first-degree murder, arson, obstruction of justice, and abuse of a corpse. Prosecutors have announced they will seek the death penalty. Despite the gravity of the charges, Thompson has shown no remorse. He remains calm, collected, and eerily indifferent to the fate that awaits him. Witnesses in the courtroom have described his stone-faced demeanor, as if he believes his actions were not a crime but a necessity. As the trial begins, the world watches. What would you have done if you discovered a betrayal like this? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more shocking true crime stories just like this one.